Today, being black in the UK is way easier than being white. You'll see.
I'm sorry.
Today, being black in the UK is way easier than being white. Way easier than being white.
Way easier than being white.
You'll see.
I'm sorry.
All right, everyone. I'm going to try and knock out this B-movie clip for you here before my sleepy time shrooms kick in. Oh, yeah. I'm a man of my word, if nothing else, and this clip's no exception. It's just amazing what you can find in these B-movies. In it, uh, so I don't know how many of you are familiar with the short story, probably the most famous short story? It's called The Most Dangerous Game by Richard Connell. It fell out of the public domain in 2020. And since then, there have been a few adaptations, theatrically, that is, and this being the most recent, the spin on it being boat of migrants on their way to Italy or Greece are spotted by this ship of wealthy aristocrats and they're saved. Yeah, saved, yeah, in quotation marks. And this scene here is from the trailer. Sorry, I couldn't isolate the exact scene without the suspenseful music. This is such a B movie that I couldn't get the exact scene. I had to use the trailer for this, so apologies for that. But um, this is the dinner scene of which the night before that they're, you know, hunted. This movie's called The Hunted. You know, I'm not going to ruin it for you in case you do want to see this, but um, now this guy here who plays the husband of the matron who owns the island, I really think he fell out of character here, because it's so true. He couldn't help it. The duping delight is very real here. And I mean, yeah, the UK, wow, man. It's a really sad state of affairs there. I don't really need to go into that, but it is kind of the topic of the video in a way. Um, you could really insert any white, predominantly white Western nation instead of the UK if you wanted to, and the same really applies. They've in parentheses again, have been pumping all of the white countries full of people who are not native to there. Some would even say who don't belong there. Right? Trying to keep this as JTube friendly as possible, but it's hard, as you know. So, The Hunted came out in 2024, loosely based on the short story Most Dangerous Game. Yeah, being black in the UK is way easier than being white. I mean, doesn't get much more blatant than that. Yeah. What else do you want me to say? It's the elephant in the room, race. Nobody wants to talk about it, but it needs to be talked about. When you send a bunch of people to a place that they're not native to, they don't assimilate. Bad things happen. And naturally, the true natives that live there don't like it. And eventually, you'd think, eventually, it would lead to some pushback. That's putting it nicely. See, that's the trouble. Pushback. Nobody pushes back. And these terrible ideas like unrelenting, unmitigated migration is allowed to happen. And nobody does a thing about it. See, that's the thing. Just like with, insert whatever operation you want, nobody does anything about it. Yeah, we talk about it, we make videos, but no one really does anything, if you know what I mean. The thing that has needed to happen for the better part of a century, no one's doing that, at least that I'm aware of. And, well, I'm sure there's someone working towards doing something about it, but like I've said before, the revolution will not be televised. How true that is. I think just solely based on this scene here, I mean, you don't really need to watch the rest of the movie to see what happens, but I think it's still worth a watch. I think you'll find that most of the times when I recommend a B movie clip, I'm usually recommending the movie, but this one you could really take or leave. It has its moments. But yeah, let's do something about it.